Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today I'm being joined by satellite by David Baldacci, one of our world best-selling thriller writers. And I can say that because David, you're in like 40 different countries, right?
Yeah, it's probably like 50 languages, over 100 countries now. It's amazing where I pop up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, do you actually speak the language of all the other countries your book is in?
Well, I could lie to you and say yes, all of them fluently, but no, I don't. When I get the books, I get comp copies of all the foreign editions, and we have a warehouse full of them, and we give a lot of them to FBI, to foreign immersion language classes and all that, because I don't want them to go to waste. But it was weird when I got my very first novel. I got the Hebrew copy for the first time. They didn't tell me what it was, and I thought there'd been this huge printing error because everything was upside down and backwards. So you never know.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's great. So, all right, I'm going to back up just a bit because you have a new book that just came out right now, and it is the second book in your Atlee Pine series, right?
That's right. Yes, A Minute to Midnight.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, because I just finished reading it, and I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna give a big spoiler, so no worries there, but I have to say you really surprised me there. It didn't go where I thought it was gonna go, and I loved it, because usually you can tell, but I couldn't tell where it was going. So first of all, thank you, because it was awesome. But for our viewers that haven't had the chance to read it yet, give us a little bit of an example. Tell me a little summary.
All right, Atlee Pine is an FBI special agent. Her jurisdiction is out in Arizona. She was one of twins, her sister Mercy Pine. When they were 6 years old, they lived in Andersonville, Georgia. And one night, a guy came into the house and abducted Mercy and almost killed Atlee Pine. And that memory and traumatic event has stayed with her her whole life. It really destroyed their family. So in the beginning of A Minute to Midnight, she's visiting this prolific serial killer called Daniel James Tour at ADX Florence, which is the only supermax in the federal prison system. She thinks that maybe Tour might have been the one to abduct Mercy Pine all those years ago because he was operating in Georgia at that time. She doesn't really get resolution from him. She keeps talking to him, and she feels like he might be the best shot she has. After she leaves the prison to head back to Arizona, she gets an Amber Alert while she's still in Colorado. This bad guy has kidnapped a young girl from a soccer match. The guy passes her. She takes in pursuit. She traps him in a box canyon. She de-escalates the situation, gets the girl away from him. Everything is cool. And then sort of in this guy's sneering countenance, she sees Daniel James Tour, and 30 years of frustration and anger just come out of her, and she almost beats this guy to death, which obviously is a really bad thing for an FBI agent to do. And she gets an ultimatum from her boss, figure this out, go back into your past, get your head straight, or you have no future at the FBI. So that's how she and her assistant, Carol Blum, end up back in Andersonville, Georgia, where she has to really revisit her past and try to figure out what happened.
And it's so great to see how strong she is, but yet that there's a real vulnerability there, and I think that is a really nice thing to see in a lead character. And I think this is one of, if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of your series that is the strong female lead, because a lot of your other series are men leads, right?
Yeah, there are. I have a lot of females in all my other books, and sometimes they're a team: King and Maxwell, Amos Decker and Alex Jameson, Will Roby and Jessica Reel. This is the first time where the lead protagonist is a female, and I think Atlee Pine carries it very capably on her very strong shoulders. But you're right about that. She is vulnerable and she is fragile in certain ways, just like we all are. I mean, physically and mentally, she's tough as can be. But there are points in this book, because it's so personal to her. This is not just another case she's investigating. This is her life that she's investigating, that she gets emotional, she makes the wrong decisions, she turns left when she should have turned right. Sometimes her logic breaks down. But that's all because she's human. And the fact that you want to make your characters in a book feel like the real thing, and I tried very hard to make Atlee Pine feel as real as I possibly could.
Yeah, and I think you did a great job with that, because, I mean, obviously, I like to think of myself as a strong female, and I know a lot of us out there do, but it is real to know that we all have those weaknesses, so I think that's great. And then one of the things that I find really interesting about you is you were a lawyer before you became this sensational author, right?
I was, yeah. I practiced law for 10 years in Washington, D.C. I was a trial lawyer, did a lot of cases in federal court, did cases all over the country just because of the practice that I had. But I've been writing since I was a kid, ever since my mom gave me a journal to write in. I was one of those kids who never shut up. So my mom gave me this journal, and years later told me the only reason she did was because she just wanted me to shut up, because she needed a little peace and quiet. But once my pen hit the paper, I really never looked back. And I couldn't make a living as a writer back then. This is a craft that you're apprenticed to your whole life. And so I wrote lots of different things. I earned my living as a lawyer. I had a family. I was married, and back then I had one child, so I wasn't able to go the starving writer route. I had to be employed. But I kept at it until I got to the point where I could write for a living.
Yeah, and what was your path there? Because I don't know if all of our viewers know, but it is difficult to get a publisher, and one as large as you got into. What was your path there? Because to go from a lawyer to a full-time writer, there's got to be something special that you did.
Yeah, I took a long time, I think, to learn how to tell a story well, how to use words maximally. As a lawyer, the only arrows I had in my quiver were words. I'd either do the oral argument or write in a brief. And, I tell people tongue-in-cheek that some of the best fiction I ever wrote was when I was a lawyer. But you're taught to write persuasively. I'm trying to convince a judge or a jury that my version of the facts is the right one. And I think that I did it the right way. I spent a long time as an apprentice. I worked and worked and worked at my craft until I started writing things that publishers looked at and said, wow, we can sell this. This can be, part of building a career. And I think that I paid my dues.
I just want to mention that you and your wife have a really interesting and important foundation that you do. Can you just give us a quick intro on that and let us know how we can help?
The Wish You Well Foundation, my wife and I founded about 17 or 18 years ago. We fund literacy programs and initiatives across the country, both public and private. We've poured millions of dollars into it. We get donations from other people who appreciate what we're trying to do. The website is wishyouvellfoundation.org. Everybody can help in lots of different ways. You can donate money, you can volunteer in myriad organizations across the country. There's a desperate need, and there's a lot of Americans who can't read or can't read at an acceptable level. They fall through the cracks. They can't participate in the democracy, really. They can never realize their full potential. I always equate the ability to read with the ability to think. It's really hard to do one without the other, so we're trying to empower all Americans and get them where they need to be. And if they get to that point, that all of us will be better off for it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, David. I'm excited to go and check out your foundation, and we will look forward to reading your books. I'm looking forward to the next series when you're Atlee Pine, because I already finished this one. So.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, well, yeah, thanks for being with us, and thank you for joining us here on the Book Break. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Our hero went to the cave at the base of the volcano. He faced a bare rock wall where no entrance was visible. Yet Tyrus knew it was there and guarded. He had to find it. His people needed him desperately.
Beyond Reality, The Lost is a book that I wrote with my grandson, DJ Densley. It is about a young man who is so lost in his games that he's given up his friends and his family. One day he finds himself waking up inside his game and discovers that living the game for real is nothing like playing it safely in your home.
He stepped cautiously toward the wall, one step and then another. The ground began to shimmy. Vegetation quivered and seemed to be growing. Within seconds, a large serpent's head cleared the ground and rose even taller. "Sagar," Tyrus whispered. A loud shrill pierced the air.
The way I came to write this book with my grandson was a simple summer project. He'd just turned 14, and I couldn't stand the idea of him being lost in his room, locked away from everybody, playing video games. So I suggested that maybe we just write a story about video games instead of playing it for a while, and it turned into this amazing book.
My name is DJ. I wrote this book with my grandmother. The ideas came from Goosebump and Jumanji.
You can buy our book at Amazon.com or at BarnesandNoble.com.